The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard Level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a Level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com.
Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's June the 28th, 2024, and this is episode number 43. Thank you very much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about Rivian and Volkswagen announcing a joint venture, Tesla Model 3 long-range battery bamboozle, DC charger cable cutting, the Volvo EX30 delayed, and of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Yoni. Joining us today is the genial Mr. Tom Malogny, senior editor at Inside EVs and the host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the mission-driven Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Edispec Studios, where he produces high-voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels. All right, so good to see you all. Good morning.
Morning.
It's been a week.
Hey, guys.
All right, so this episode might be a bit looser than normal. I don't know. I was up in Colorado doing out-of-spec things with Kyle this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we do have a lot of other things to talk about first, and we also have Gleb Nikki, founder and CEO of United Chargers, joining us at the top of the hour for a little bit. But let's start, I guess, with one of the big news stories of the week. Rivian and Volkswagen announcing a joint venture that should give Rivian the cash it desperately needs for growth and give Volkswagen access to some key Rivian hardware and software. So the deal breaks down to a joint venture that will create next generation electrical architecture and best-in-class software technology, they say. Of course, this is IP that intellectual property that Rivian has already developed, although it sounds like that work's going to continue. So Rivian will get an initial $1 billion investment and later another $4 billion if things go the way they're planned to. The formation of the joint venture should be completed in the fourth quarter of the year. So I guess let's unpack this a little bit. First, Kyle, can you explain in layman's terms what zonal architecture refers to?
Sure, and I did a whole video on this a few weeks ago talking about the electrical systems, the new architecture that's going into the Rivian Generation 2 R1. And that is essentially a complete rewiring, a complete repackaging of ECUs and the way the vehicle works. The idea, the difference between a domain control versus a zonal architecture is... maybe the best way to describe it is like in most cars, new technologies were added over time. So you would have like fuel injection, ABS, power seats, headlights, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. List goes on. And these things all came out, over a span of 20 or 30 years. And we just kept coming up with more shit to put in cars. And all of these run on their own individual little ECUs. And so, for example, if you have a window controller, that's one box that then you need to run wires to every bit of the car for that ECU to control. The idea of a zonal architecture is to bake many different types of functions into just a few main ECUs that are not an ECU by their function, but by their location. And so the reason to do a zonal architecture is really there's no reason not to, other than just taking the leap into this type of situation. You can have, for example, your single zonal controller handling ESP, window switches, and your trunk operation. Just all because that's in the rear, for example.
Right.
And then on the front, you can have your front ECU handle the ESP for the front half of the car, and your turn signals or whatever else. The list goes on and on. So the idea of splitting up ECUs by function was the old way to do it. Now it's all about by location, and it makes so much more sense. And this is a really great thing. Tesla does this, of course. It's awesome.
Right. I think Tom is frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear us, Tom, but you are frozen.
Maybe I'll jump off and then jump back on, see if we get a better connection.
Okay. Someone says you appear to be Starlinking, which I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So this is kind of crazy. So what's the bigger deal? Even is it it's kind of, I don't know, zonal architecture, or is it software? Because this is something that Volkswagen has struggled with until recently, but maybe it's still struggling, inside the company, because like the 2024 Volkswagen, ID4, like the software in the vehicle is like so much better than the original ID4s. But it doesn't mean that Volkswagen has their software together yet, really, right?
None of this that you're hearing about, that you're seeing about, will change the way really that the customers interact with the car. Okay. So all of the screen, just where stuff's laid out, the menus, that's still up to every individual automaker to make their own, put their own, not even just their own skin, but their own layout on this. This is more about how the vehicle operates. So these are all of the controllers, the physical hardware, yes, which I'm sure Rivian will have different versions and adaptations and options based off of the type of car they're going in. In this particular case, it's going to be going across the Volkswagen group. So in everything from a Volkswagen Up, if they still make that, but like an ID3, like a pretty entry-level car, all the way to, the top new luxury electric Porsche Cayenne, or it's not called a Cayenne, but the big one. That they're going to come out with. Like, it'll span this massive spread of cars. And to be honest, we don't know what the first cars will be that have this. We don't know all of those things. But essentially, Volkswagen needs the help, yes, from an HMI perspective, but that's not the point here. It's more about how the vehicles operate.
Yeah, so this is like a deep level of software, basically.
This is how the vehicle runs. This is the computers that turn it on, that make it move, that handle your accelerator pedal inputs, that control everything that the car would need to do, the connectivity of the car, the data, how is this all processed? Well, there's so much, so complicated to have a vehicle software stack and hardware stack that complies with extremely difficult regulations from each individual market. And Volkswagen has proven they really struggle in this department. Most people are thinking like, oh, I don't like the menu layout in the ID4. That's not this. But Volkswagen still struggles with a lot of the deeper level software. What I imagine the Rivian system will unlock for Volkswagen Group is the ability to make a better HMI. And I'm sure they're going to say, well, this looks great in R1S, R1T, or R2, or whatever vehicle. Let's incorporate maybe some of those ideas, build software in the spirit of that. We don't know that to be true. We've not heard any rumors. But Volkswagen builds hundreds, thousands of different models and submodels across the entire group. It's insane. And so having one base electrical architecture for everything to be built on will save so much cost, so much headache, so much hassle. And to the end user, what do we care what computer is powering the car? As long as the screen is a little bit different and we can have as much functionality and more than we have today, I'm totally cool with it. I don't need my Bentley to have a different software architecture than my ID3.
Right. And it'll be cheaper for them to manufacture the cars, and hopefully a little cheaper for us to buy. I don't know. Martin, I don't know. Have you looked at this deal a lot this week or much?
So yeah, it should end up in VWs from 2028.
They could integrate components earlier than that. What I thought was interesting was Rivian's already been testing this on some Audis to see if the two companies are, compatible. They went on a first date. They both swiped in the right direction, and Rivian tested their stuff on the Audi, and we're like, yeah, this could work. And of course, the money helps as well. So I think the first half of the cash, $1 billion or so, maybe $2 billion paid by the end of this year, the rest by 2026. So financially, very, very good for Rivian. As Kyle says, most importantly, I think I read a stat this week, like, Rivian's target this year, what was it, 57,000 vehicles or something? I don't know, including Amazon or not.
I think it was, yeah.
Is like what Volkswagen makes in about 4 days or a week or something. So, Rivian, as incredible as they are as a startup company, pulling all of the right people together and making great vehicles and doing it from, they've been around a long time, but the actual, the R1T project is still new. And, have got a lot to learn about manufacturing and production. So VW, a great partner to work with there. But of course, this is all tied up in Herbert Diess, the former head of Volkswagen, started CARIAD in 2020. And I don't think that anyone would argue that's been a raging success. CARIAD's the software bit of Volkswagen. New boss there, Oliver Bloom, said CARIAD remains a very important part of the business. But of course he would do, because what else are you going to say?
That's what you say. Uh-huh.
Like these girls and guys are going to be looking for a job in 2028. But the future architecture of what goes in Volkswagen Group vehicles is now being looked after by, it's not by Rivian, it's a joint venture. So if I want to mistake that, it's a new business, a new joint venture, 50-50. And so, like, if CARIAD aren't doing that, then that's a lot off their plate. And many would argue that's why the former boss is no longer the current boss of Volkswagen, because that bit of the business has really struggled. They've done, they did the big Xpeng deal in China as well, where Volkswagen did a tie-up with them. Of course, it made news, but it wasn't such a big strategic piece of news as this, as this Rivian deal as well. Huge vote of confidence in a startup like Rivian, and I don't think there's any problems with a big car maker like this going to buy services from the market, even though they're a competitor, to the Scout brand. We haven't mentioned that. No problem in my eyes with Volkswagen doing that. It's a smart bit of business. We've even seen in some of Tom's recent videos, and Kyle's as well. I've had Wasim on their shows, and the head of software there, or I forget his exact title, and they have such a good product at Rivian in terms of kind of the next gen understanding of how to make an EV. I know why people thought that VW perhaps lost some face. The VW stock price went down on the announcement, and Rivian's went through the roof as people thought that VW was sort of almost capitulating to this new startup. But treat Rivian like a tier one supplier. Rivian is Bosch, if Bosch had got it right. So I think it's a really good bit of business.
But like you said, this will be like a joint venture, so they're going to be developing even further, like the architecture and software to control it, right? So Tom, Martin mentioned Scout. Is this bad news for Scout? Because Scout's a new is what do you call the revived brand, American brand that Volkswagen is doing, and they're building a factory here in the South. And it's going to really compete, head to head, it would seem like, or closely with what Rivian does. So is this bad news for them, or what?
So, no, I mean, the announcement isn't bad news for them. What's bad news for them is that Rivian, seems to be ahead of everybody in this area in software. That's not going to go away. They were going to have that advantage anyway. This is going to help Scout. If anything, it's going to bring their software closer to what Rivian has than it would have if they were just using CARIAD, So, no, it's not bad news for Scout at all, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think Rivian's going away. If you mean by that, like this is going to solidify Rivian and now they won't go bankrupt before Scout, hits the market. That would be the only thing that would be good for Scout, I guess. But that wasn't going to happen anyway. One of the comments that I wanted to point on is John mentioned that I still can't believe that the Volkswagen Group can't do this on their own. And I understand that sentiment, and I know how people that maybe don't get to have access to the innards of the companies like Kyle and I do, talking to people that work in the companies. And I totally understand why you would say that. But the truth of the matter is the legacy brands can't move at the pace that the startups do. They just can't. There's layers and layers and layers of management. And this is all of the legacy brands. Volkswagen, might be one of the biggest and probably has the most layers. GM is also known for, it's very difficult to get things done quickly. And they're so used to just improving on what they have, John, and making it better and more efficient. It's very difficult for them to get approval to scrap everything that they've done and say, okay, we're going to make a whole new architecture for our ECUs. It has to go through layers, and it just takes like one layer of management to say, no, let's stick with what we're doing. It works. We'll just make it faster. We'll make it better. We'll cut the cost of these ECUs. And I know that seems very elementary of an explanation, but it really rings true. And I hear this over and over in a lot of the companies when we go and talk to people, and Kyle talks to Wasim like I do, and he'll bring up the point that I love the fact that they just trust me. And, if we make it, we can make decisions on the fly. I could make 5 decisions a week that Volkswagen couldn't make in a year, because they have to wait for approvals, and they have to run it through the lawyers, and they have to, have it double checked and triple checked and quadruple checked. And then after it's been approved a month later, they get a letter, no, we're not going to do that. We're going in another direction. The startups move so quickly and they're so agile. They can make these huge leaps in technology advances so quickly where the legacy brands can't do it. And that's why we see like the legacy brands, maybe they can build cars better, like the actual physical building, because they've been refining that process for 100 years. They can do that better than Tesla and Rivian and say even Lucid, but they can't make these giant improvements in how the vehicle operates like Tesla and Rivian and Lucid can, because it takes them years to get the approvals to take such huge steps. Right. And I know that it sounds like a simple explanation, but it's really true. And the more I talk to people in different companies, I remember talking with Ford about this a year or two ago, and how they said, we understand we have to start moving like these startups. We have to start giving blank sheets of paper to small skunk work teams and letting them come up with things and then approving it and running with it, and not taking 8 months before it gets the okay. And if we don't do that, we're going to fall behind in technology. We're already falling behind in technology. They've said this to me when we're sitting down and talking in small groups of people, and Kyle shaking his head. I'm sure he's heard the same thing. So that's what, and the funny thing is, and I was with Kyle at the R1 Gen 2, launch event or press event. And as they were explaining the zonal architecture and how we're cutting out from 17 ECUs down to 7, and how, we're using them in these zones, and these ECUs will control everything over here. These will control everything over here. You kind of look at it and say, well, why the hell aren't they doing this all the time? Right. It seems so elementary, but the fact of the matter is, it was because it wasn't done that way all the time. And the legacy brands were so laser focused on making these slight improvements, doing a huge change of such an important system like this. It's difficult for them to do. And I know it's hard to understand on the outside, and just saying, well, why wouldn't they just present it and it would just get approved? That's not how the automobile industry works. It's like, we've used this analogy before. These huge companies are like giant cruise ships. They take a long time to turn, whereas the Rivians, the Teslas, the Lucids are these little speedboats that can do this back and forth. They can make the changes much faster, and that's why they're getting an edge in, like, particularly the software part of the vehicle.
Right. Hey,
just to add something, because we started on the Scout topic here, Tom, I totally agree with what you're saying. These companies are their own worst enemies in keeping up with the new entrants. The Scout piece, a lot of people are like, oh my God, they're going to use the Rivian platform in motors. That is not a no. No one said no. Rivian would probably love to sell them the R1 platform or
Sure.
something in order to do that. However, that is not what is being discussed even remotely whatsoever at all. Scout kind of doesn't exist at the moment. It's
Right.
going to come back. Maybe we'll see. But what's happening is just software, not motors, not batteries, not powertrain, not suspension, not
Right.
chassis. It is just electrical ECUs, the architecture idea, and forming that joint venture around the software component and hardware engineering. Don't get too excited about Scout yet.
So Rivian held an investor day yesterday, and there's a 3-hour-long video on YouTube. And I wish I could have watched it yesterday, but I was on planes with no Wi-Fi. It was very disappointing and frustrating. But Kyle, did you watch the whole thing, or a good chunk of it?
You mean the presentations yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so was there any indication that this deal has sped up the development or the growth for R2 and R3 at all?
No indication.
Okay, so the timeline's still kind of looking the same?
They're on an extremely fast timeline already to bring a new product to market, which wasn't really even worked on when R1 launched. For a lot of automakers, especially building a vehicle as I would say feature rich as R2 is, which is less feature rich than R1. But this is a 7 to 8 to 9 year development cycle for most companies. Rivian's shortening this down as a new entrant into the space into, I don't know, how many years is R2? 3-4 years, something like that. That's pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a good deal for Rivian for its financial side, right? Because their stock popped, so like the market looked at it and recognized, okay, this is really helps them out and really kind of gives them more of a makes their future look a little brighter, basically, because there's a lot of people thinking that maybe they're not going to make it because there's always lots of headlines every quarter about how many hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever they lose on the cars that they're manufacturing. But yeah, so this definitely looks like it kind of secures their future, or maybe I don't know if it secures their future, but it definitely gives them a better chance of getting the R2 and R3 and letting the market decide whether they're going to stick around or not.
Oh, I think it gives the market confidence, Dom.
Right.
Where people were worrying about the sales, and they're losing money. Now all of a sudden you have the largest automotive group in the world invest $5 or $6 billion in them. It's kind of it reassures everybody that, hey, yeah, they've got something here worth investing in. And I think that alone, besides the money, that really I think makes the market take a breath and say, yeah, these guys are going to be here to stay. If Volkswagen views them as so valuable to invest money, they want what Rivian has, they must have something good. So that's how I looked at it.
All right. Let's see what we got for time. So the long-term production capacity. So Martin's pulled up a slide here. What's going to go? What's looking like in the future? Do you have the dates on the Georgia line? Did they? Because in my mind, like the Georgia factory is kind of still like a big flat piece of scorched earth. Or
well, if you remember, there was almost a seemingly pullback from Georgia.
Right.
Sometime a few months ago. Again, I'm not a good company analyst, but
sure.
There was like a okay, we definitely need to make it to R2 moment, and it was like, okay, let's just do that in normal, and we're still going to do Georgia. Don't worry. That was kind of what they were saying, and now here comes the don't worry part. I think that probably got a slight delay. Just my impression from the outside looking in, but now it's back on the table, back to full send.
All right.
Didn't they have problems though with getting all the approvals and everything? There was a lot of pushback. For some reason, people in the area didn't want them there. Didn't
it sounds like
delays?
anytime you do something interesting, people freak out.
Not in my backyard. A lot of that going on, but there's a lot of
nobody wants 3,000 good, high-paying jobs in their area, I guess.
Right, and there's a lot of industrialization, right? Like right in that area. Like it's a good chunk outside of Atlanta, but it's just far enough away that other companies are building huge huge complexes right in that same like region, basically. Yeah. So we have Gleb backstage, so maybe we should have him on real quick.
job.
All right, let's add him to the stage. Boom. Hey, Gleb.
Hey guys, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you. So
Gleb.
let's just check here. Right. So welcome to the show. So now next week, I think we're going to record a standalone episode with you talking about the EV industry and electrification, since you have a very unique vantage point on this whole electric transformation of the auto industry. But today, we want to talk to you a little bit more, have you on to talk about your company, United Chargers, and what it's doing up there in Canada. And of course, this is the company that builds and sells the Grizzly family of charging equipment that we talk about at the beginning of our show, since your company has been our sponsor for these past 10 months. So maybe we could start real quickly with a little bit about you, Gleb, because I'm curious, what sparked your interest in electric vehicles, and why did you decide to develop and manufacture EV charging equipment in Canada?
Yeah, there's been a sequence of events which inadvertently lead to the position where I'm right now. I never were thinking about electric cars until 2012, when I saw Tesla banner in Toronto that Tesla is coming to Toronto. I had no idea what Tesla is at that time, and then I was about to change my car, and I wanted a sporty car, but my wife said no to two-door cars, so I had to choose a four-door car. So I drove all of them, like Porsche and Mercedes and BMWs and everything. Then I went to try Tesla, and Tesla just opened their. It was in the barn somewhere in the outskirts of Toronto at that time, and I went there and I tried the Model S, and I was like, wow, like. Not because it's electric. Electric wasn't part of the equation at all at that time. It was just the thrill and the different. You all drive electric, but it actually shocked me. I was like, it took me a couple of days to get my brains back to work after that experience, and then there was no other choice. But I went for Tesla, and I believe I was one of the first 10, 15 people in Canada who received the vehicle. So driving Tesla, and of course that drew a lot of attention, and was quite hard because people were stopping me on the streets, they were opening the windows, they were asking questions, and I knew little, right? So I had to educate myself. My background, I'm a computer engineer, and I spent 25 years in developing SAP systems for the customer. So I was mostly solving problems for ERP systems level, and then I had my own little data center. At that time, business was good, and data center, the way it works is that you are on the standby 24/7. But if things work, you don't do anything much, right? You just. But if something breaks, you go there at 2:00 at night and you fix things. So I had plenty of time on my hand at that time. Plus, I had a new toy, so I started to dig into this, and I figured that wow, that is the future. That is the future. There will be millions and millions of charging stations. The infrastructure will change. We're gonna get rid of oil. The wars will stop. People will shift to to be a better society, and that whole equation drove me to the point where I decided to figure out how can I spend my spare time and maybe open another business, and I did. So I did the research at that time, and ChargePoint was the top promising charging company at that time. They were again in a small office facility in California there. So I flew there. I took a course with them, and I became a reseller. So the first year, 2013, I sold 4 chargers.
Okay.
And I did actually install them myself. My first charger is in Ottawa, in the public library in Ottawa. It's still there. It's still working.
Wow.
And then things start to work slowly towards that. I start to bid on the projects, and I got a lot of help from ChargePoint at the beginning, like to set me up, to train me. It was all new to me, right? So, but as for everybody else, I was cold calling car companies, and and selling like EV, what charger, like for a phone, like what kind of charger is selling. So it was absolutely plain back in 2012, 2013, and then. Inadvertently, we got into more business, of course, and in the I never was dreaming of becoming an EVC manufacturer, even, right? But the somebody up there made it the way that I am, right? And so it is.
Right. So let's fast forward to the future. You now have 8 different charging solutions on the Grizzly site, from a portable AC charger to a 25 kilowatt DC charger, and you seem to have a product for like every use case, basically. Are there other products coming in the future? Like, you don't have to get too specific because it's too early, if it's too early to start spilling any beans or anything. But
yeah. So the reason why I'm here as well is. To make a little announcement. I know that even Tom doesn't know it. And Tom will be surprised as well. But on Wednesday, we're going to open the Grizzly Ultimate 48 amp for sale.
Grizzly Ultimate. Yeah. Okay, so what's this?
So we're changing our lineup of products. The existing Smart and Classic are well-known products, but they use the previous architecture. We've been working very hard for about 2 years, spending a lot of R&D. Pretty much, basically, what all we make, we spend into R&D at this point. And so we made this new Ultimate platform. We launched with Tom, as Tom was there, and thank you very much for coming to Canada and shooting the video with me. I really appreciate it, Tom. We launched the 80 amp charger about 2 months ago in April 15th. Now we just got UL approval on yesterday from UL. We got the addition to our UL listing of 48 amp Grizzly Ultimate charging station, which will be utilizing both NUX and J1772 connectors. And we're going to launch the sales of that product next week. So the manufacturing starts Tuesday. Monday is Canada Day. Hello, all Canadians.
Hey, me too.
Yes, and happy Canada Day, guys.
Thank you.
I love you all. Canada is a great place to be, and it's a great country. A little bit more on the controlling side, though, not like US, but I hope things gonna change. Let's put political discussion aside. So we're launching the 48 amp product, and it's going to be on sale for the first couple of months, and the price will be $397.
Whoa! How much again?
$397.
Wow. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, under $400 for a 48 amp charger with based on the Grizzly platform that you have and the high quality materials that you use, that's really fantastic. That's a super price, Gleb. So after I review the Grizzly Ultimate, which I have here in my garage, and I know you're waiting for me to review it, but I had to make a couple of small changes to my setup here, and I've actually just done that this week. I can start on the review on the Grizzly Ultimate soon, and then I'll probably ask you to ship me over one of the 48s, and we'll get that in the State of Charge Garage and see if it holds up to the quality that your previous units did, which has always been pretty good. So that's great. That's super.
Absolutely, of course. We're not making much on that product. In general, the idea of the company is to speed up electrification, and we have a lot of problems in electrification. A lot of assumptions, a lot of ways how people think, how government think, how business think is wrong at the moment. That's what we're going to talk next week about all of that. But the idea of United Chargers is made in the goal and purpose of United Chargers is to help. Well, I'm not Elon Musk or somebody who can change the world, but I try. I try.
Yeah.
So to help speed up, to make it more affordable, to have good products which stand for the elements out there, be able to bring some ROI to the customers. That's extremely important. That's the goal. The goal is to make it a business as usual. Take away all the hype from it, and as we see, finally the hype is going away, and the market becomes as usual. There is it was for all these years, for these 10 years, the government been, like you make a campfire. When you make a campfire, right? We all been in the woods. We make campfire. You have a fire start, right? It's expensive, but it needed to start the fire. So you put the logs, you put a little bit of the fire starter, you put the light in, it starts to burn, and then it's supposed to catch up on itself and keep burning the wood, right? But instead, what's happening? We pushing and pushing and pushing more fire starter into the fire, and you know what the result will be of that? Wood will not catch. And when you stop doing it, when you empty the bottle of the fire starter, you're not going to have a campfire. And that's what's happening right now. Like all the investors are attracted to that burn, to that fire, to that light, and blindly go in there, spend their money, not understanding, realizing that it's not a real business. It's a government-induced and incentive-induced fire starting process, which taken 10 years now. We need to stop that. That need to be stopped. And the technology supposed to be living on its own now. The fire should burn from the wood, not from the fire starter anymore.
Right.
Look at Tritium. Tritium went bankrupt last week.
Yeah. Right.
This is the only company, to be honest, in the DC fast charging field, which was supposed to be making money. Right.
Yeah. We're gonna have a dedicated show during the week next week. I think we're doing it on Wednesday, right, guys? And we're gonna give Gleb the platform to really talk about the whole electrification scene and his thoughts on. He's got some really interesting thoughts. Yeah. And I do want to thank Gleb for a bunch of things. Number one, sponsoring batteries included. He's been our sole sponsor since the beginning. And also providing us with a Grizzly Ultimate to give away. We announced the winner last week. Gleb, I still haven't emailed you the winner's address and everything. I'm going to do that after the show today. We gave away one of the Grizzly Ultimates, and Gleb offered to actually, we just said we're giving it away. Gleb's the one that gave it away. He gave it to us to give away. So he's going to be shipping that out this week to the winner, Boris. And that's awesome about the news with the 48 amp Grizzle E. And thanks for announcing it here on the show, Gleb. That's really awesome. But definitely looking forward to your midweek show this week. I think we're going to do it live, right, guys? Too. We're gonna be able to take questions from people. I think that was what our aim was, to do it live on Wednesday. And if people have questions, we'll be able to pull them up and have Gleb answer the questions. But thanks for everything, and we really appreciate you being a sponsor here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, guys. You're doing a great job. The reason why we're sponsoring you, because I strongly believe in you as the provider of knowledge to people, and that will speed up electrification. That's why we're all here. Congratulations to the winner of Grizzly Ultimate. We're definitely going to send it next week after the long weekend, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. And thank you very much, guys. I really enjoy your show. See you on Wednesday.
We'll see you on Wednesday, Gleb.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Happy Canada Day. All right. Yeah, it's great down here. We get together with a bunch of other Canadians in the area and like hang out and have a big picnic, usually on Canada Day. So yeah, that's great.
That's the difference between Canada and America. In Canada, you guys have a picnic. In America, we shoot stuff, we blow stuff up, we got fireworks, we drink, we have a real party. In Canada, picnic.
A picnic.
Yeah. Well, we have fireworks in Canada. We have fireworks in Canada too, though. We do, but just like here, we all just meet up at a park here.
Yeah, I was just giving you crap for being Canadian.
Yeah.
I lived in Canada for a year. I love Canada.
That's true. It's true.
I tell you, Wednesday's show with Gleb's going to be interesting. If you guys are around, definitely tune in. When I went up to visit Gleb at his factory, he was more interested in talking to me about the industry than the factory. And I was like, dude, I flew up to Toronto to do a factory walk around to learn about your products. And all he wanted to talk about was how like the industry's messed up right now and how he wants to try to help, improve things and make products to make charging easier for people and so forth. So I think he's going to have a lot to say on Wednesday. It'll be a fun show to tune into if you're around.
Yeah, and I hope people are supporting his company as well if they want to, if that's the right thing to do. I mean, I must get crap once a week at the minute whenever I talk about Polestar. My neighbor who's retired, collared me this week, and I love him. I love him to bits. In his 80s, and he's absolutely vibrant, and he's on his bike every day, and
nice.
He's you wouldn't think he's an octogenarian, but he went, "Hey, your car's made in China." And I'm like, oh, come on. I thought we were going to talk about the weather or something. And he's giving me a pain. So, like, if and lots of people will be like, oh, China, this, China, that's, which is fine. Lots of stuff is made in China. But hey, why don't you go and support a company in North America and buy products if that's how you genuinely feel? Lots of people go and support a company that are doing it and making things and R&D and spending and jobs and all those kind of things. So I think it's amazing that it's not just sort of, a race to the bottom with quality stuff like that.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool that they announced this 48 amp Grizzly product. I didn't know about that actually when I scripted all that. Like it was like 2 a.m. last night. I was just writing. I wanted to make the show as interesting as possible. So, but I had no idea he was going to pop that out there. So that's cool, and that's a good price point too. But
I've been telling him for a while, like the 40 amp Grizzly is awesome, Gleb, but you gotta update it to 48 amps because that's kind of the norm now for onboard chargers. When he started making a Grizzly, how many years ago, 40 amp onboard chargers were the norm. Even a lot of EVs came standard with 32 amp onboard chargers. 40 amp was like good then, but now we've kind of moved up to 48 amp as kind of the base. And some vehicles have 80 amp onboard chargers. So I had been pushing him for a while and saying, Gleb, drop the 40, go up to 48. And, and his answer was, look, we're going to introduce the 80. And internally, you could dial it down, buy the 80. And if you only have 48 amps, just dial it down to 48 amps. And you have that extra capacity in the future if you do upgrade your system or whatever. And he didn't tell me he was doing the 48, which I'm surprised because I had been needling him for a while about it. And I would have expected him to say, don't worry, it's coming down the road. But he didn't. That really was a surprise.
All right. So this week, Tesla announced that the Model 3 long range is now eligible for the $7,500 federal incentive, which is great, right? The Model 3 Performance was already eligible because it uses Panasonic cells, and now the Model 3 long range, which was limited to cells from LG, is now using some of those cells in some builds. So this creates a problem, though, for some buyers. If they aren't eligible for the tax credit for reasons of too high an income or what have you, they might get a pack with LG cells instead of Panasonic cells. So, Kyle, why is that a problem? Oh, he's sorry.
Why is it a problem that if you don't get the tax credit, you get a worse battery?
Right. Oh, is it a worse battery?
The LG, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so you might have slightly better degradation with the LG. Would be the only positive I can think of. But I have the Panasonic. Do I have the Panasonic in my car? No, but I know plenty of people with the Panasonic. And
you have Panasonic in your.
Yeah, but I got the small one, not this one. You and I have the 74 kilowatt hour Panasonic, not the newer, bigger one, but similar architecture and cells. And they last really well. Basically, the main thing is don't worry about degradation. The main thing is if you tell Tesla you qualify for a tax credit, they give you a battery pack that qualifies. That sounds reasonable if all things were the same, but they're not. The LG battery charges like ass, technical term. And the Panasonic battery charges fine, still not great, but at least acceptably.
Right.
So, do you want like a marginally okay charging vehicle, or do you want an absolute charges like ass vehicle for the same money? So you have to tell Tesla you qualify. You have to go through all of that entire rigmarole, maybe even have them take the price off the car and square up with the government later. But that is the only way to get the Panasonic.
Right. And people do want the Panasonics.
You want the Panasonic. You want to tell Tesla you get the tax credit. You want the little check that says your configuration qualifies for the tax credit.
Right. So, all right. Anything else? Any questions or any comments about that? Anybody? Do we want to? I don't know how deep we can really go into that, but it's basically,
no, it's just slimy. It's awful. It's not good.
It's just more tax credit stupidity that we did a midweek show, and we ended up on the IRS website because there's two different answers. It's like, we were talking about the used vehicle tax credit, and one answer was it was 2 years from the date of registration of that vehicle when it was first sold to a retail customer. Then the other answer was it's the model year. So, but some 2025 model years are now are going on sale soon, and it's like, so model year is an entirely OEM invented construct, and it's like, is that what my taxes are based? Like getting a used vehicle tax credit, the whole thing. Like, I'm a big fan of generally the IRA, which is weird because it was an environment thing, but that piece of infrastructure investment and stuff that you guys have done, I think on the whole has been very good. But when it came to the EV stuff, it's just been a disaster. Like the point of sale, cash on the hood, call it what you want. Like that is how it should be, rather than you start worrying about next year's tax bill. But generally, I mean, I kind of don't blame Tesla for ending up in this situation, because it's kind of been imposed on them by just the most ridiculous piece of subsidy, politician, legislation, or whatever it was. Maybe it's not legislation. I don't know. I'll be corrected in the comments of just stupidity with how to incentivize electric vehicles. They just the whole situation gets worse.
Phil asked really quickly, wait, are the LGs cylindrical or pouch? They're all cylindrical cells, but they're just different supplier. The Panasonics are manufactured in Nevada at the Gigafactory, the number one, and LGs are, I guess, South Korea probably, or actually probably. They make them in different places. They have plants everywhere, and they are building some plants here, but they're not. Those aren't those, obviously. All right. Anything else we want to say about that? Just ready to move on, because I got something else I want to share.
No, I think Tesla really needs to communicate the charging performance of their vehicles differently.
Right
now, they state, Model 3 up to 250 kilowatts, Model X up to 250 kilowatts, but the performance is totally different between those two vehicles, and we show that in our testing, in our 10% challenge, in our charging tests. It's a real problem, and I think consumers are on the losing end.
Yeah, I wish we'd have some sort of a standard, like 10 to 80% charging time for all vehicles, and that way people could measure them, even though that doesn't explain everything, because different battery packs are different sizes. But at least in this case, like Tesla would be forced to show the 10 to 80% with this battery versus this battery, and you could say, okay, well, it's going to take 20 minutes longer if I get the LG battery to charge 10 to 80%, and then the customer could decide if they want it. There's no real super easy way of doing it, but the industry has to figure out some way of communicating charging times to customers. That's a standard that everybody can understand, rather than some automakers now post 20 to 80%, some say 10 to 80%, some say 15 to 80%. They're given all different numbers, and it's super confusing to people. And in this case, where you have the same car with different charging times, it's even more complicated. It's I don't know how they get away without having to disclose some sort of information about that. Like, there's two cars sitting on a lot, they're exactly look the same. No customer could ever tell the difference except us crazy geeks here that talk about where the cells are made and so forth. Yet one's going to behave so much differently than the other one. How is that not forced upon the company to disclose?
Right.
Anyway,
I wouldn't even know.
A video on it, so I'll have both cars side by side, same conditions, same temperatures, and we'll show the difference. I bet it's not as big as a lot of people are thinking. We're talking minutes over a charging session, but still add that up over a lifetime of a vehicle, especially when the better charging one still charges significantly worse than many vehicles on the market. We're not talking about a good situation.
Right.
Is there any way of telling from the VIN? Is there a digit in the VIN or a sticker anywhere? I don't know
I
anymore.
don't think the VIN shows. You can look underneath the car for a sticker.
Right.
So they
So I
just need
think
to add it into the software on the car and show what battery's in there.
Yeah.
I think manufacturers really need to be more transparent about the chemistry of the battery inside. Are you getting an LFP pack? You just maybe it won't make a difference for a lot of people. For most people, it won't make any much difference. Oh, it's a battery. A battery's a battery.
But in this case, Dom, both of these are the same chemistry.
They're the same chemistry, but are they exactly the same chemistry?
Well, they're both high nickel.
Right.
So, it's not like a consumer will really understand NCA, NCM, but because the profile of these are fairly similar.
Right.
It's not like the base car, which is clearly an LFP, which is just like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, I think it'd be great to be able to know exactly what you're getting anyway, just aside from all of that stuff. Max, who we got to hang out with Max this week quite a bit. Chemistry is irrelevant. Give us performance and degradation specs. Okay. But, right. Maybe for journalists it would be nice, he says. Okay. So, Lightning Love, I think he's changed his name. So let me get this straight. No tax credit and you get the Panasonic, right? No.
The other way around.
Yeah, the other way around.
Say you want the tax credit and you get the Panasonic.
Yeah. You just for most people it's not an issue, because they're going to get the tax credit and they get the good one, right? And but it's just if you make too much money, you're not eligible for the tax credit. So you communicate that to Tesla when you in the buying process, right? And then they send you the LP pack version, basically, right?
They send the LG pack. If
LG,
you say
right? I don't know what I just said.
LP, but yeah,
LP, long player. Okay.
Everyone gets it. Say when you're buying a new Tesla Model 3 long range, say you want the tax credit, and then you'll get the good Panasonic battery.
Right. All right. So before we get into more news, let's talk about what we've been driving a little bit this week, because that's kind of interesting. So Kyle, you spent a lot of time this week in the Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV, and I drove the Kia EV9 a good distance as part of a 3-row edition of the Out of Spec Race to Vegas series. We'll probably just talk more about that specifically next week, since the first episode airs tomorrow, but we can actually share with the audience a little preview of that. Let me see. If you want to know what to expect, get ready for this.
You're muted, Dom.
That was so much fun. Jordan did a great job of putting a lot together. We recorded a lot of video. And it was quite an adventure, and we'll talk about that more next week, as I said. But I did want to get your impressions of the EQS SUV. It's the 2024, and I'm not sure if you've been into the 2024 before yet, but it got like 118 kilowatt hour battery this year.
Okay, I just want to comment.
Oh,
this is a competitive event, right? This
right.
is legitimate. I found the hardest core, most knowledgeable EV people to put in all of these cars. Drew and I took on paper the worst one, and this guy says, let's hope Kyle's less competitive. No, get out of here, unsubscribe, and do not watch. That is not the point. What is this guy smoking? This is why we got to make crack illegal, guys.
I think it is illegal, but okay.
No, apparently not.
Yeah, no, it is competitive. It is very, very, very competitive. But we're limited by the tools that we have to work with, but we also can figure things out, take different strategies, and come up with different results.
This isn't like 8 people go on a road trip for no reason. This is like what car is actually better. And then all of the clips you just saw, that was the only fun bits. Everything else is hardcore.
Right.
I don't believe that.
A lot of math going on. Yeah.
I love it. That is what blows my mind now. I still can't get my head around it. Like, that is going to be my TV this weekend, because it'll be on my lounge TV, because my TV now, smart TVs have the YouTube app, and I play for YouTube Premium, so I still pay. So, out of spec, get my money, but a tiny share of that, but I don't get the adverts. And that's like my TV now. And that first opening shot where Kyle's walking towards the camera and the camera's tracking towards Kyle, the cars are lined up. He's like, hey, good morning, here we go. Like, that's Top Gear now. Like, that is...
Oh, is it?
No, I'm just saying, like, that is TV now. Like, that is...
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be, obviously, long and epic and wonderful, and it'll be when the kids are in bed and stuff, but it still blows my mind that that is now what is... I just can't think of... Well, I can't think of the last thing that I watched on the TV, apart from, obviously, kids' TV, which goes on at, like, 6 a.m. and goes off at 8:30 when they go to school. Like, I just watch stuff on YouTube now, and sometimes Netflix and that. But, like, it's amazing. So I love stuff like this because it's... Like, that's the new Netflix, what we were doing 10 years ago, streaming Netflix and Amazon. Now it's just huge. Stuff like this is going to be how I spend my weekend. So anyway, that wasn't about EVs. That was just about my mind being blown.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think, certainly want to do more Race to Vegases as long as we can make a business case out of them. It's a lot of people, a lot of time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun, and a lot of editing. But I mean, if that's work, that's pretty damn good.
Right.
It's really fun. The other thing I just want to mention is on the way there, we did hardcore, out of spec, charger, whatever. The only rules we had was take your car. We left all fully charged. Whoever can get to the finish line first wins. You can't go more than 10 over the speed limit. You can't go more than 85 in the 80 zones. Whatever else happens in the middle, that's why experts are driving these cars. I didn't find Joe Schmo off the street. I found the hardest core EV experts I could find who were available, and that's why we did this. So that's the point. On the way back, maybe some of you will find it interesting, we did the route planner return, where we already knew what it was to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way back, we just entered in the destinations in the car and followed exactly to the T what every car recommended.
Which ended up giving us pretty interesting results, yeah.
Don't give it away.
I'm not, yeah, I can't.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because the car definitely does things. Cars will do definitely things, or their navigation systems differently from, how people who drive EVs like a lot will do them. Yeah. So that was a blast, and looking forward to that tomorrow. I think I'm definitely going to watch. But I did want to get your impressions more about the EQS SUV real quick.
Yeah, nice car.
Right. All right. So the actually, I got to drive it too on back to the airport too. I got to shuttle it back to Denver. So I got 50 is that 50 miles, something like that?
It's like 60 something miles. Yeah.
Right. So I hadn't driven it before, so I had to just kind of jump into it blind and figure out how to get it to go. And
Dominic, that is how it works whenever you drive a car for the first time. You got everyone to figure it out.
Right, but I also I had the pressure of, I had to make my flight. I got it to the gate 3 minutes before boarding, so that all worked out pretty good. But I was worried it was going to take me too long to kind of, or I'd be stuck maybe driving, because you drive the car with the steering wheel way up in the air like you're driving, like it's a bus or something, and I like it like down in my lap like a Mario Andretti,
For racing, you actually want the wheel pretty high. For full control, and so I'm seat down, wheel out and up, and also I go a little bit higher in the Mercedes than I typically would, only because they have an eye tracking device in the middle of the wheel, and for my height, I need to raise the wheel just a bit. I agree, slightly out of the comfort zone, so it doesn't give me the warning that it can't see my face.
Right. So I was really impressed by this car. Like it's an expensive vehicle. It's what, 120,000 the one we had?
Yeah, they start at 100, they go to, for a Maybach 200.
Wow. But you can really feel where that money is, like when you get into it like that. You get the seats are comfortable, ventilated, of course. You get the head cushion, which I never really feel like headrests. I don't really use them that much, or I don't really lay back into it. But on the EQS, you can kind of pitch it forward, and it just kind of snuggles you as you waft along the highway in like silence, basically. It's pretty quiet until you get up maybe a little above the speed limit. It gets some wind noise. I'm not saying I did that, but you can get fast enough so there is wind out there, but But for the most part, it's just like a nice, comfortable, quiet, place to be. The I don't know. So you did the range test in this already?
Yep, Max did the range test. Yep.
Right. It was 70 miles an hour, like 380 miles, I'm thinking.
Less than that. Video hasn't gone up yet, but
okay. Oh, sorry.
yeah, it may not. We'll see. Yeah, so
Okay.
the big thing is, if you want to talk range, we can go into that topic, because we also have the R1S dual motor, the one you saw in the preview clip. So the R1S dual motor is the longest rated range electric SUV on the market. It's 400 miles currently. With Gen 2, I think they go to 410 or 420. And that vehicle, that exact car, we ran on the same day as the EQS SUV, which is rated at 330-ish miles, 332. And both cars, same day, same conditions, same weather, whatever, side by side. The Rivian did 50 miles less ish than its EPA rating,
Right.
and the Mercedes did 50 miles more, which
Right.
even though on paper there is a 70-mile spread between them, the Mercedes in any condition, no matter what, we've tested it many times, even on the race, has more initial range on the full charge. So
Right.
this is why we just cannot trust in any way, shape, or form whatsoever the EPA rated range numbers.
Right. It really underlines like how kind of useless that metric is.
It's
the way we're doing it now.
Complete BS. Complete
Right.
BS. How can you take a car that has 70 miles less range and it goes 50 miles or 30 miles farther?
Yeah, it's like the Taycan was like an example of like where you look at the numbers 225 or whatever it was when it first came out, but it would do a lot more than that in the real world. People are getting out to 270.
Taycan Turbo was like 203 when it launched.
Yeah.
Yes, super low.
Yeah, and it would do almost 300 every time.
Yeah. That to me has been the biggest. The Taycan has had the biggest spread of real world overachieving. The EPA. But it sounds like, well, the Mercedes, Kyle, seems like is doing a lot better too. Even the BMWs, the new BMWs, I've found that I pretty much could beat the EPA with a 70 mile an hour range test, which is good. You much prefer that than the other way around, where you get, a Tesla, for instance, consistently. I think just about every 70 mile an hour range test I've done on their vehicles. I haven't done any recent vehicles, but initially I always was about 12 to 13% under the EPA. So, it's just different companies have different, I guess, philosophies. You can always, there's two different rating systems, the 5-cycle, the 2-cycle. That's going to affect how it performs versus the highway range. And then you can always lower your results. You can certify the vehicle at less. Ford has done that on a couple of their vehicles where their internal testing showed X amount of range. And then they said, okay, knock about 12 or 15 miles off of that when they certify it. The EPA will let you certify it at a lower rating than what your testing showed, not a higher rating, obviously. And so the companies all have different philosophies. But it's interesting to see, as Kyle said, how two vehicles, like competing vehicles that are in the same, type of class, the difference, 50 under, 50 over. That's too big of a spread.
Right. But the EQS SUV, impressive. We kind of like dunk on it sometimes because of the styling. It's not like the most attractive, compelling, styled car out there, right? I think you referred to it, Kyle, as the blob. I think, right?
Yeah, I think it looks way better than the sedan, personally.
Sure.
But to be honest, I would only go SUV over the sedan. Having both, that thing, it's just great. It's nice, and you know what's even better is you can buy a used one for like no money in comparison. So just wait a couple years, buy a heavily depreciated EQS SUV, and get the massaging seats, and you'll be very happy.
What was I saying before the show, Dom?
Right.
I was talking to Dom, and I'm like, have you seen the price of the used EQS SUVs? I'm really getting tempted.
Like
we just said
60,000
that today.
60,000. It's such a different experience. So you have the Rivian R1S right now. It's just like such a different vehicle from that, right? It's like the cushy. It's like the F-150 Lightning version of the Rivian.
Yeah, the fact is, I just don't need when I'd have to sell the R1S, I'd take a beating on that in depreciation,
Right,
especially
right.
now with the second gen coming out that has so many improvements,
Right.
so it's just not worth it. But when I see the used prices of the EQS SUV and the iX, when I see these prices, I look at both of them and I'm like, I'd really like to be driving around in one of those, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Who knows?
Max mentions that the Rivian interior is a lot nicer than Lightning, which is yeah, it is. But I was just thinking more of like just the plushness of the ride and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Really, yeah,
absolutely looks better. You're right, Max, and has higher grade materials, more premium feel, 100%. But it does not ride as well as the Lightning. If you want to go cross country on one of those two vehicles, you're nuts if you choose the Rivian. Other than
I actually
longer
disagree.
range.
I think the R1T rides better. My R1T rides better than the new R1Ts. I've been driving them back to back, Tom, and they've definitely made changes to the suspension from my very early T to even the Gen 1s. And mine rides amazing. I can't feel a thing in my truck. And then I get in, like Drew just got a new R1T, and I'm like, whoa,
okay.
What are we in sport mode?
So R1T got worse, but R1S got better.
R1S got stiffer, but I wouldn't say better. They just control the motions better with more damping force. So it's not as smooth, but you get a lot less body motions now because the rear of the R1S is just always all over the places. I actually have two R1Ss in the driveway right now. I've got that one out there, that white one. It's a service loaner. And then I've got a silver one over there. And one has the new software, one has the old software. So I'm able to see sort of that new software update difference. So maybe I'll do a video. I don't know. It's pretty nerdy. That's in the weeds.
Maybe they had the vehicles tuned differently when we did our drive because, I took mine. I chose when we had that event to spend a lot of time on road. You did a lot of off road, which is understandable. And I remember feeling it, from driving the R1S all the time. The new one, it just felt so much more compliant. It felt softer I didn't feel every little road irregularity like I feel on mine. So it sounds like you're not getting that same feel right now driving them, but I definitely got that impression. To me, it was a big improvement on road feel compared to what I'm living with day to day.
Yeah, so that would be like secondary ride over all the like coarse little bumps of the pavement. I'd like to drive your vehicle next time I'm there.
I've offered you guys to borrow it, you and your dad too. So that offers.
I'm in my driveway right now. I mean, this is a very niche topic, but one thing I will say is I've driven a bunch of Rivians, and every time I get in one, they're always a bit different. Each one has some variations. For example, my service loaner has like the AC compressor is 10 times louder than the press truck, but they're both of the same generation using the same units. So, but the quad motors in that one are way quieter than my old quad motor truck. So it's all different. I don't get it.
That's weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you remember when I first took possession of my R1S, the air suspension had hoses that were disconnected, and it wasn't working, and it made a super loud noise when you tried to do it. So, it goes back to what I said earlier. These new startups are great with software. They're not always the best putting the vehicles together. And perhaps, that there is some variation from vehicle to vehicle still, whereas you don't get that as much with the legacy brands. I'm talking about build quality. My R1S has been pretty solid. I can't really complain about it. The camp speaker broke where it latches into the vehicle. Rivian service came to my house and fixed it. The connector that holds it in stayed closed. It wouldn't open, so I couldn't. Well, I took it out to use it once. I couldn't put it back in. So we did service at my house. They fixed it. But now the rubber gasket along the passenger side lower door that goes from the front of the vehicle to the back fell off. And when I got possession of the vehicle, it was hanging off, and Rivian service came out and fixed it, and now it fell off again. So that's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, Max commented his mom had a misaligned passenger door on her R1S. Drew has such a misaligned passenger door on his new R1T that it stripped the paint off the edge.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So still some issues with getting
it's
it.
better than it was on. So I feel like my truck, it was like perfect. And like it wasn't just mine, but I looked at all the ones on the line.
Oh, I think he froze. He has some Wi-Fi issues at his house sometimes. So he was saying, yeah, the very original R1 Rivian R1Ss, it's like they spent like a lot more time with them, just making sure everything's nailed down properly. But then as production built, and you're pumping out more and more vehicles, what happens to the quality then? Right, Kyle?
I think Kyle's back.
I just cut out. So
yeah, right.
Anyway, we can move on. I'm sorry.
You caught what I had earlier.
Right. So yeah, I was just explaining like they spent a lot of time in the early production on the details, but with ramping that up, some of that things get a little looser, I guess.
Yeah. So when we did the R1S initial review, we were really hard on the build quality. I mean, the roof didn't fit at all. It just was so bad. And Colton's been doing consistent updates, and it has gotten better. But this, when you spend enough time with any car company reviewing those cars so closely, you start to see some similar issues and things go. And that's across any automaker where like, oh, yeah, of course, you got that bug, which they all have that.
Right. Mark Norman says, was it breaking news that the R1 platform will support 24 kilowatt DC bidirectional charging? It was the first thing I heard of it. It was the first I had heard of it. Take my money. I don't know about this. Do you know about this, Kyle?
Yeah, of course. Followed this story pretty closely, and there's Rivian has said that all of their vehicles will support bidirectional charging. The difference is in R1 it's DC bidirectional, and in R2 it's AC bidirectional.
Right.
I very much doubt anyone's going to do a 24 kilowatt bidirectional at their house. I mean, just going through what Tom did to do his 19 kilowatt 80 amp setup for AC charging, and then a DC return required, cabling, service upgrades, all of these things that he had to go through. I think a lot of people will probably dial this down to the maximum their home allows. Right. However, I don't like the idea of DC bidirectional. I really would like to try it out, and GM has offered to send us a kit, but we don't have a GM vehicle. So
you mean DC or AC? You don't like the idea of DC bidirectional?
No, how could you? You need to go and spend $7,000 to $10,000 on equipment for your house,
right?
And then you're limited to the DC side. You've got all that stuff. Versus on my Cybertruck, on Lucid, on Rivian R2, you just need a little control box, a little gateway. And then the car does frequency and voltage matching to the house.
Right. Yeah. But AC bidirectional should be pretty interesting too. Like a lower cost implementation, right?
Absolutely. That's the most exciting part here.
Right.
So the thing with DC bidirectional, Rivian can do 24 kilowatt. In theory, they could do 200 kilowatt bidirectional, right? I mean, the port supports it both ways. So 24, that's fine. You would just need to be like, the inverter is the limitation in this case. Right. And so, Tom, what did you spend for your inverter, and how much power was it?
So the kit, God, this is a while ago, and I have a terrible memory. The kit, I think, was like $4,000, the 39 and change for the home integration kit. The charger is $1,300. I got it free with the truck, but if somebody wanted to just go out and buy it, $1,300 for this guy. That you need the Ford Pro charge station, and then $3,900 for the kit. So you're already in $5,300. Then you have to have it installed. Mm-hmm. It's going to cost at least $2,000 or $3,000 to get it installed, and you may need to do a service upgrade to your house to have 100 amp dedicated circuit for Ford Charge Station Pro. So if you need a service upgrade, it's another $3,000 or $4,000. So it's easily a $10,000 investment.
And I would say that's best case scenario.
Yeah, I said easily a $10,000 investment. Now, if there are instances where people don't need to upgrade their service, they do have the capacity. Some of the newer homes are built with large capacity. And they can do that. And you know what? You really don't have to. This Ford Charge Station Pro, you could dial it down to 48 amps and put it on a 60 amp circuit and still use the home integration kit. I just wanted to charge at 80 amps. So the home integration kit does not require the 100 amp service. That's only if you want to charge your vehicle at 80 amps. So you didn't have to do it. You could get away with a 60 amp circuit because there's two separate lines. The line feeding the charger and the line going back to the home integration kit are two separate circuits. So you only need a 40 amp circuit going back because it can only deliver the 9.6 kilowatts back to your house, which coincidentally I just used like 2 days ago because we had a temporary power outage here. We had a crazy storm blew through New Jersey. In like 20 minutes, it blew through, but trees were down everywhere where I live. And I had my generator power most of the house, but since it was out, I said, let me just make sure this thing still works because I haven't used it in a while. And I backed the truck and plugged it in, and about 45 seconds later, power's up, lights are going on and everything. So it works. It's just very expensive for what you get.
Have you seen the Cybertruck bidirectional, Tom?
I haven't yet. I know Qmerit has 5 or 6 of them in service now. And they've asked me if I wanted to come out and record and make a video of the whole thing, and I'm going to. I just haven't been able to fit it into my schedule. Qmerit actually, not to give my channel a plug, but just, I don't know if you noticed the news, just this week they announced, or last week they announced that they are now an official installer for Tesla of their system and for Tesla chargers. Tesla,
that's cool.
Tesla doesn't often make like official announcements that we this is a certified installing group for our products, but they came out and said Qmerit is our certified installer for the home integration kits and the backup systems. No, well, they don't call it the home integration kit, but the vehicle to grid charging with the Cybertruck.
So I was going to say you could come out. I'm moving in a few weeks. I'm going to have it installed in roughly 4 weeks' time. You're more than welcome to come out and film the installation of that at my house. But what I was going to say is yours takes 45 seconds to power up. The Cybertruck is like 8 seconds. Yeah.
And sometimes it takes more than a minute. It's not consistent.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't understand why, but it's not consistent. There's been times early on where I was using it and I was just like, okay, it's not working. And then like 30 seconds later, boom, it turns on. And I'm like, that was a lot longer than usual. So listen, it was a first generation product. I know I've been highly critical of it, but I also have to give Ford some credit that they were the first ones to come and put this out. What first gen product of any product was a good product? You know what I mean? So, Ford, it knows that there's some improvements, but, they put a ton of money into the system. They were the first to do it, knowing that it wasn't going to have a big uptick rate. I think it was as a gigantic R&D project, and it also inspired the other companies to do it. Once Ford had it, now the other companies had to get off their butts and produce these systems because they couldn't let their competitor have it and them not. So while it's not the best system and it's very expensive, I do have to give Ford props for coming out and making it because I think it's pushing the industry that there was a system out there working while everybody else was just talking about it.
That's right. And Martin's pulled up the Tesla PowerShare Home backup bundle up here on the screen. $2,500 for that bit of kit.
Yeah.
Or free if you bought a Cybertruck.
Or free if you
only works
spend $120,000 on this Cybertruck.
No, you can spend $100. You can get a dual motor. And it
right. No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying they say $2,500, but anyone that could use it, it's actually free. And mine came with free installation.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, this going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that when you move, like in a month from now, I guess.
Yep, and my install will be less than the maximum allowable. So basically, they're like, "Do you want backup power?" I'm going to try and just run my house off the truck. I'm just going to always keep it islanded.
Okay.
Why not? Why would I want to pay? What benefit do I have to give Fort Collins Utility a penny when I can go get my own energy and bring it back to my house and run off the grid?
Okay, so you're gonna have,
but then you can't drive the Cybertruck.
That's a good thing. I don't really want to be driving it.
Have you driven this? Have you driven the Cybertruck? No. Actually, I did get the chance to drive it, and it's it's all right.
It's all right. It's cool. It's a drifting.
Kyle loves it, which is great.
800-pound missile with 840 horsepower. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think I might have mentioned. I'm not sure. Did I mention to you guys a week or two ago that I got my email from Tesla to configure my Cybertruck, and that's on my reservation, which I made like 3 months after the reservations open. So the take on the Foundation Series is not high. People are waiting, I think, for the small. What's that?
Forget 3 months. People 2 years after are getting invited to configure.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that Tesla's trying to get these Foundation Series out there. That there's not a big take on it. The initial take was, just hardcore fans, influencers, people that we're going to make money off them. But the average Joe does not. It seems to me is not buying Foundation Series. Hopefully, when the lower price models, the $80,000 model comes out or whatever, there'll be a higher take rate. But right now, the take rate is not good for the Cybertruck compared to their millions of reservations.
Right.
Can I just say that Colton just texted me, and our local Fort Collins Kia dealership has Kia EV9s for $187 a month on a lease with $1,500 out of pocket.
What? That's impossible.
That's amazing.
That's like a little tax and fee down, $1,500, $187 a month. That's cheaper than my cell phone bill.
Wow. But you have to live in Colorado to get that price because it includes the Colorado incentive, right?
Get some incentives, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But that's insane. Right. So I guess Colton's going to go get one. Maybe. I mean, I was thinking about getting Jordan a Model 3.
Okay.
Rear-wheel drive, just to have one around. But my neighbor down the street actually was just like, he just bought one. He's like, use it literally anytime you want.
Oh, you're going.
I'm like,
okay, I'm
not going to more money.
You're going all robot on us, Kyle. Just your Wi-Fi is giving up on you a little bit. No, that's okay. Yeah, but that's an incredible deal. So I drove the EV9 quite a bit this week, and so it's my first time in the thing. And what a great vehicle, man! It looks good from the outside. It's got that third row. It's super useful. I got it back there. I'm like 6'2", and I had
EV9 though, right?
EV9.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were
talking about, right?
I must have missed. I was talking EV6 for $187 a month.
Oh, EV6. I thought you said EV9. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But you go share your EV9 review.
Oh, well, I mean, just saying that I like this. Great. It's a great car. It's tons of room. Looks great. The software is a bit of a disappointment in a few respects, and I guess we'll see some of that in the Race to Vegas series. I don't want to spill any beans at all. But yeah, charges like a monster. Charges so good. Oh my god. Holds that rate of the 200 over 200 just about to 80%, and it just charges like nobody's business. Incredible car. Let down a little bit by software. Handles like you would expect a big SUV. We're going pretty quickly down like twisty mountain roads with it, and it didn't give up. It didn't howl through the turns like it might have. It's really enjoyed it, got to say.
Colton said he's must be watching. He said they have 17 in inventory. It's EV6, not EV9. I don't know if I said EV9, I'm sorry. And he said it's for the wind trim, not land trim, $187 a month with $1,500 out of pocket. Seems insane.
That's a good deal.
And they'll ship it to you. I don't know if they'll ship it to you at that deal, but our local dealer for EV9s will ship one anywhere in the 48 states. So call Fort Collins Kia and see if they'll hook you up. But if you're in Colorado, that's where you get the good leases.
Right. Yes. Right. Would you have $5,000 incentive that helps out those lease deals?
Yeah, maybe on the lease it's applied less. I don't know.
Okay. So we're getting low on time, but we still haven't mentioned a couple things I want to talk about. EV charger cable theft is on the rise, according to you at least. Anyone who looks around and sees, follows the action on Twitter or other, on social media, you'll see stories about EV charger cables getting cut. So people are vandalizing stations like they haven't before. One city in particular has been experiencing this. And Kyle, you put out a video about this situation a few days ago. So what's happening there?
People are cutting cables off DC chargers. Not good.
Right.
Really not
right,
good.
But a lot. Like you were telling me, was it Seattle that has?
Seattle had almost no DC charging available at all this week because they just cut all the cables off all the chargers, like
Right.
North Seattle
Like
or
dozens
I don't
of
know.
chargers.
North Seattle is not what I was thinking. I'm sorry, but basically the Seattle area, dozens, and it's so bad that Electrify America actually called me to make the video, which is like,
Oh.
they try to avoid probably talking to me, and they're like, Kyle, we need you to make a video on this because this is getting real bad.
Yeah, it's
And
out of
I was
hand.
like, so that's what started it. They gave me all their data. They gave me the security footage. They told me the costs that they were incurring. I put as much as I felt comfortable in the video. They were really open about the whole thing. And they're like, we realize everyone's got a lot of problems. Tesla, us, Flow, ChargePoint, EVgo, everyone's got problems with EV adoption. They're like, we can't even focus on that if people just keep cutting the cables.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, are they that valuable? Like, what, they cut them
No.
off? There's not even that much copper in there, right? That's the only thing that they can do with it is sell
So
the copper.
The cables cost per cable, Electrify America, well over $2,000 just for the cable.
Right.
And there's about $15 to $19 worth of copper content in that cable.
Right. It's nuts.
Right.
Like,
so here's the thing that I think happened. I think Electrify America was like, oh, let's make a video and Kyle will share how little benefit there is. But if you're thinking from a thief, it takes 2 seconds to cut the cable. You're like, damn, that's $100 sitting right there.
Yeah. And $100 for these people that are stealing this is money.
Man. Yeah. Some people are pretty desperate, though, man.
It doesn't help that a lot of Electrify America's locations, or at least some of Electrify America's locations, are in areas that aren't well lit, behind buildings, where you could hang out there. You could spend 45 minutes cutting cables off and no one would come by. It's
right.
The location of these are going to play a big role. Funny thing is, one of my closest friends, a licensed electrician, and years ago, I installed chargers on my property in Montclair. Kyle has been there and everything. And the first thing he said to me is, wait till the thieves realize they can make money off your cables. He goes, you're going to be replacing cables every week. And we really haven't seen that so much yet. Cable theft's been out there since early adoption. It's been there, but it's starting to accelerate now because people are realizing there's some money there. And, I don't personally, I'm surprised Electrify America would ask one of us to do this, maybe only for people or ask Kyle to do this, maybe so people feel bad for them. I don't know, but because I think highlighting it, putting it in the news is going to do the opposite. What it's going to do is people can say, holy shit, why am I missing out on this? Get the bolt cutters and, right. I'll meet in the parking lot at midnight, so.
That was
easier money
too. I thought the same. And I put it in the video. I'm like, I'm just making a how to make money video. Look, so at the end of the day, people had a bunch of different ideas as to how to stop this. People were like, you could, basically, I don't know, bunch of stupid ideas I saw. I really think there were some good ones in there, which is, why don't you hide the cable behind a vault? And then when you unlock the charger, unlock the cable. Some people were like, bring your own cable. I'm like, I'm not going to carry around a 100-pound cable in the back of my car.
Yeah, not DC cables.
AC. I love how Europe does bring your own cable for AC. I wish we'd had that here. But for DC, that's just not viable.
No.
And the thing is, there's zero risk. The police just don't care in Seattle enough to solve this, because EA even told me, they're like, look, we called the cops, we gave all the info, they just haven't done anything.
Right. Yeah. Good luck with that. Right.
It sounds like they got bigger issues to deal with. But I would say this is critical infrastructure. Imagine not being able to fill up your car with gas anywhere in the Seattle region. That would make headlines, and this is just not getting the same. It's crazy. So I was like, let's put some high voltage on these cables. Just run those things all the time. Or Nissan Leaf security vehicles with machine guns on the roof. That'd be awesome. So there's some ideas with having like an attendant for your lot.
Okay.
But now you're paying someone to monitor.
That's a lot of money.
They tried that here in Denver. In Denver, there was a brand new ChargePoint station, DC charger, that went in at the Target. It was part of the Colorado state incentive plan.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a dude who kept coming by, kept cutting the cables. So they hired a security company, 24-hour security, to just sit there and monitor the cables. When they did their shift change, the guy went and cut all the cables. So now they're spending all the money on security and getting cut cables. And it's just, that doesn't work. Humans will have errors. And cameras don't solve the problem. Lights don't solve the problem. Proximity to buildings don't solve the problem. You have to just make it deadly. Okay, I'm joking. But I think we could just protect the cables with a vault.
Or wireless, which is, I think, a technology that's coming in the future, but it's still down the road a little bit. Kyle's shaking his head, but yeah, I think eventually we're gonna go just wireless DC charging.
I don't know. That's a while for wireless DC.
Yeah, but I don't even know about the power levels. I mean,
that's the thing.
We do buses though. We do wireless charging on buses. That's in huge numbers.
DC high power wireless charging, but we're just so far away from that.
Right. That means,
Mighty Unlikely wants to know if the cable were stored on your EV. I don't ever imagine that. You know how much space would be required in the car and how much weight would be carried. It's just, I don't ever imagine that. I think that's mighty unlikely.
And that would raise up the cost of the cars and the engineering. What do you have there, Martin?
It's just, as Kyle said already, this is critical infrastructure. We have rules that if there is a power cut, in this country at least, there are rules by which you have to be reconnected, or the local power company will bring in generators and have you back on, because you can't have, depending on the temperature, if it's a British winter, people without heating, and it's a health problem, and so you can't cook warm food and all those kind of things and keep yourself warm. This is critical infrastructure, and if our governments are going to spend unthinkable amounts of money throwing subsidies at buying cars, putting chargers, getting companies to start charging businesses and all that kind of stuff, and trumpeting in an election year, hey, look what we've done, and all these businesses, some of which haven't made it as well, then the final piece of the puzzle is to actually value what you spent all of this money on, which is critical infrastructure. You wouldn't, if thieves were, and it happens, things like train lines, anywhere there's a degree of cabling, there might be some copper or other things. Things like trains or other things that are part of the infrastructure. If that is attacked, it's almost like an attack on the state, as it were. It's an attack on critical infrastructure of your country, and it can't just be ignored. And so there's no point spending all this money that governments around the world are spending if at the final point you go, well, it doesn't really matter anyway. Like that, what's the point in all of it? So it's that final piece of that jigsaw of, we value this. Like, that's why there is to get some of the NEVI funds in terms of hoops you have to jump through and then uptime and stuff like that. It's what we should be looking at.
Right.
And so, we can talk about how, the ideal location is probably indoors, or it's a large center where there's, 80 chargers and a coffee shop and stuff like that. But you also, you are dealing with people who are not like the people watching this podcast.
Right.
They are, pardon the pun, wired a certain way, and they will, break the law. So there needs to be a deterrent for that, and properly stop it.
Right.
Yep. So it's a real problem. It's going to spread. We are going to deal with it, and there's no way around it. I mean, we have just crazy people around here. Someone, I think, shot my car this week, or pickaxed it or something, just sitting in a parking lot. It's just random parking lot, and it just come back, and the headlights smashed in, and there's a hole in the hood. And it's like, what the heck?
That was really bizarre. Yeah, your VW e-Golf, pea soup green or whatever kind of green that is, just kind of looking so great on those new rotiform wheels. But now there's like this hole, and it looked for all the world like a bullet hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's apparently not. But
yeah, I couldn't find a bullet. I looked around, but I'm thinking pickaxe might be the
right, something with a rounded edge.
What's really,
but anyway.
I'm glad they chose the Golf though, because right next to it was my Rivian, our EV9, and the EQS press car, all parked next to it, and they chose that one. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Makes an interesting video.
One other little thing about that cable thing. So it has $20 of copper inside the cable, but it's not that easy to get out of there, is it? What do you do? Burn the rest of the copper? I don't even know how you
strip the cable down and peel it out.
Yeah, they'll strip it.
It's a bit of work, though. I got to think. I don't know. For me, it was not worth the trouble, of course. Because $20 is
But that's free money sitting there. So I think that's EA. Dominic, your viewpoint is probably how EA feels. They're like, for $20, why would you go through all this effort and do all that?
Right.
You know, you cut one station a day, you're making $3,000 a month.
Yeah. It's crazy though.
When you're on drugs and you need that $100 for that next fix, you'll do anything.
I do like that parking lot attendant idea though, even though I guess, shift changes could open up an opportunity, but it also gives you the opportunity to, help people out, or get people in their Chevy Bolts not charging on the 350, but on the 150 like they ought to, or the 50 like they ought to. And also, if they're when a station has problems, people can't initiate a charge, that attendant should know what to do to, just reinitiate the charge or see where the issue is and just help people out. I think it would be great. Super expensive, I guess, and that would add to the cost of charging, I would imagine. But it's, yeah. Wait, Philly Phil says we're being rational. That's craziness. First thing you must do is check rationality at the door. Yes. All right. So really quickly, we're out of time here, but I did want to mention another news thing. Anything else you want to say about that, Kyle?
No, I got some time.
Okay.
I'm in no rush today.
Okay, same. So besides that, I did want to mention that the Volvo EX30 has been delayed until 2025. So we probably all saw this coming. The release of the Volvo EX30 in the US has been put on hold now until next year. This is the compact crossover that people have been hugely excited about since it looks really great from the outside, and it's been touted as starting at $35,000 in the US. So originally, the plan was to ship it from a factory in China, despite big 35% I think tariff, and then they supply the U.S. market later on with cars from the factory in Ghent, Belgium. That's, I guess, starts producing next year. So the U.S. government imposed a 100% tariff now on new vehicles built in China. So the plan has changed. It's taken a couple months for Volvo to communicate this with us. And hi, Ellie. Ellie, one of Kyle's dogs, is making a little cameo. Such a sweetheart. She is such a sweetheart.
She came to say hey, and now she's bored.
Okay. Right. So 100% tariff. So the plan has changed. Kyle, you have a reservation on a Volvo EX30, and so does Tom, actually. So this kind of affects people's plans, because it was, we had a lot of people saying they put down reservations on the EX30. There's a whole lot of excitement around it. So this kind of throws a wrench in the works a bit. So Kyle, they sent you an email already. So what did they say to you?
Volvo said you will have to wait. Sorry, bad news. They also said here's $2,500 towards one of their XC40 or C40s.
Okay. So I pulled up your little, you put this on x.com, a copy of your letter, or at least the text of it, outlining. So the target of the timing of things is kind of interesting how they state it in your letter. They say, we will let you know the exact timing at a later date, but it will most likely be between early and late 2025.
And is that when they'll let me know the timing, or is that the timing of delivery?
That's they're going to let you know the exact timing later on, but they're just saying that it's going to be either sometime between early 2025 and late 2025.
But I think you could read that between early and late 25 as either meaning the car's delivery, or when they'll communicate the date that they'll let me know the car's delivery.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think they.
I'm sorry,
ahead, Tom.
I haven't gotten that email or the offer. I just double checked my email. So
yeah, some other people were saying they didn't get the offer. So try and use my code; it's in there.
Right, and
I'm not buying a Volvo C40 anytime soon.
I think this is killing my reservation. I think I'm just going to get my money back now. I don't think I'm going to wait for it.
Right.
Well, that's
David Lutz makes has EV3 will be here earlier than EX30, and
we don't know that yet.
Sorry,
it may. We don't know that yet.
Right.
It's a 2026 model year for US. The EV30. So we don't know which one's coming first.
The EV3, yeah. So, but you're looking at this
EV3, yeah.
like we were talking about before the show a little bit, and you were saying this might mean canceling the EX30 and maybe going with the Kia EV3 because you're looking for a smaller car, for as part of your herd.
Yeah, well, I have the Bolt, which me and my wife both love driving, by the way. I can't tell you how many days, either one of us go out and grab the Bolt and don't take the Lightning or the Rivian, depending on where we're going and what we're doing. But I think I'm going to be giving my Bolt to my parents. My parents just moved into the house next door to me. I bought it, we fixed it up last year because the house became available. So now I moved them close to me. They're both in their mid to late 80s. And my dad has an Accord. And he's got to go get gas. He's got to get oil changes. He's got to go to the dealership for all this stuff. The Bolt would be so easy for them. They don't have to do anything. They never just plugging it at home. Never have to go anywhere. So I'm thinking that we're going to get them in the Bolt as long as he likes driving it. And then that leaves a hole for us here to have a small little runaround EV. And it was going to be the EX30, and I wanted to get it this summer. But now we'll see. We'll see how that works out. I'm really thinking about the EV3. I wish it was coming sooner, though.
Liv Lee says R3X is greater than EX30. R3X, of course, is the Rivian offer, but that's whole different price kind of category and capability. The Kia EV3 is going to be like an affordable, very affordable car. It might be a bit below 35,000. I have the feeling they're going to try to get it as close to 30 as possible. I don't know, but I've been saying this for a while. Like the Kia EV3. I mean, people were super excited about the EX30 when it came out, and rightfully so. It's a great car at a good price, but the Kia is killing it in design. The design of that EV3 is it's got everything. It's chunky. It's kind of bold. It looks like it'll be spacious inside, and the price point is going to be just as good or better than the EX30. And I would be surprised if it's even packaged better, like in the rear seats, because the rear seat in the EX30 we've heard is a bit tight, which you're dealing with a small space and trying to make room, like the original Kona had a rear seat that was different, little tight as well. So I don't know. We need to see how this EV3, because right now it's just a computer animation on our screen here. If you're watching us on YouTube or X.com or Twitch or Facebook,
looks good though.
Yeah. I looking forward. I like driving small cars, and I'd really like to take that for a spin. I'm looking at that and thinking,
did you see the little Hyundai baby one though?
Yeah,
I know you did because I showed it to you. But what is it called again?
It's the Inster. So I wanted to at least mention that too. It's a subcompact EV that's not coming to the US, unfortunately, but it is coming to Europe, and so we have a decent number of European viewers. So, how excited, Martin? Are you aware of this?
Yeah. So £22,000. They say it'll seat 5, comfortably. Something like a 50 kilowatt hour, but £22,000, about the same euros as well. This is what we've been waiting for, because so often we've been told, EVs are the rich plaything and they're not going to be affordable. But hang on, this is a well-specced Hyundai with all of the stuff that's been out already in Kona's forever. So actually not quite the latest highway driving assist, but like a version of that, based on the Casper, which is a combustion car in Korea, but it's 9 inches longer to accommodate the battery, and it's just a really funky, well-designed city car loaded with technology, 2 10-inch screens, and just what you get, and a 360 camera and loads of technology and all the stuff that they've got in their locker, in their parts bin, thrown into a small city car, but with really decent range. I think 200 and something miles WLTP. But that's the point of this car is it's going to be affordable. You'll probably end up getting this on a monthly deal if maybe it's your first car, or it's a car that you might not be buying in cash, and so it's just that, what's a monthly cost to get transportation, to get me to work, to do my errands, to take the kids to their activities, and these kind of cars are so important in European cities where we all live on top of each other, and it's just brilliant. So this is coming by the end of the year to some European markets, I think, maybe.
So 22,000 pounds, you say? So I think if they were selling in the U.S., we're looking at maybe like a similarly priced, but in U.S. dollars, like $22,000 for a car. Like
Yeah,
it's a
that's
small
out the
compact
door.
car.
Yeah, that's out the door for us. So we pay about a fifth
wow.
on called VAT, value-added tax. And
Right.
so the price you advertise things for in this country has to be the price that you then hand over the money for. There's nothing else to add to that. And so that is such a great price for what is, not the biggest car in the world, but it'll take 5 people. They said it had some decent luggage space as well, and yeah, just brilliant. Really excited about stuff like this. It's got all the pixel designs that sort of run through it, and yet from a side profile, it's almost like a Kia EV9's been put on a hot wash and shrunken down, except it's a Hyundai. So, but yeah, very cool.
It charges 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes on the 120 kilowatt EV charger. So the peak charging
it's
isn't-
Kona
isn't
spec. It's like
super high, but
85 kilowatt peak. It's fine.
yeah, it's got a good curve. And so Kyle, you're excited about this, but did you know that there's another variant coming, the Insta Cross?
No,
Well, there is.
show me.
There's no pictures yet. I know. I hate to bring up. They just tease it in the after we get down to the bottom of the press release, and there's this little tease, and it's a clickable link that doesn't work yet.
What?
And it's
I gotta get one of these. When I'm in Europe, one of these trips.
Yeah, that's true. But this is a pretty funky little car, and I wish we had kind of cars like this, because if you're living in the city, like a small hatch is the way to go. Maybe it's not as popular in the States as it is in other places. Like I'm from Canada. In Canada, we had those like the the Honda Civics, especially. It was a huge thing through the 90s, late 80s, early to mid 90s at least. I mean, the Honda Civic hatches were everywhere. That's what just what you buy because it's practical. But in the States, people like the 3-box kind of situation, the sedan with a trunk. But yeah,
We also like Suburbans.
and Suburbans, right? Big vehicles. That yeah,
I mean, I fit into that category. Love them.
sure. But you also love and appreciate small cars.
Yeah, my Twizy is like the ultimate transportation device.
Yes,
Right,
perfect.
right,
Now, an Insta N with
Yeah.
quad motor.
No, just take the Ioniq 5N drivetrain. You don't even need to make it more powerful to compensate, Martin. You just take the base 641 horsepower. It might be enough, but I think job done.
Yeah,
don't
put it
worry about it. Just put it over in that one, and
Put it on sale.
it'll be okay.
It could use a little spice. The 0 to 62 on the Insta is like the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour. And the standard, there's 2 different batteries. There's a 42 kilowatt hour battery. It's like 11.7 seconds to 62, which is kind of like a long time for today's EVs. And the long range, the bigger battery is like 49 kilowatt hours, and that's a 10.6 0 to 62, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, which is still pretty pokey. Oh, just speaking of pokiness and just like numbers and acceleration, just to drop back to the Kia EV9, because I did want to mention this. I was really impressed by that aspect of the car because we had the range. We were driving the range spec. It's a rear-wheel drive, and it's only got the one motor on the axle with a big battery. So it's a pretty heavy version of the EV9. 201 horse. No, it's 200. How does that work again? Is it 200?
201 horsepower.
201. Okay, so it's a 150 kilowatt motor, 201 horsepower. It was fine. I mean, if you floor it, you could put the pedal to the floor, and you don't get that crazy, out of control, kind of overwhelming sort of sensation of speed that you might get in some other cars. But it was like it's nice and smooth and very natural. I think people will really enjoy it. And it can get out of its own way just nicely, like merge on the highways. It's not doesn't crazy, but it definitely does the job. And I just want to shout out to that aspect of things. Basically,
Cool.
all right. So one other little thing. I don't know if you guys have time for one.
I got a
short-
dash, but you guys crack on. I got 2 little ones to tend to, but
Yeah,
but you
when I
guys.
said I had a lot of time, I realized I actually didn't.
Oh, okay. All right.
Love
So
that. I can chat. No, I can't. No, I got stuff to do. I love
Okay.
that.
Very Kyle move. I apologize.
that's all right. So why don't we just wrap it up from here then? Right, it's getting on. that brings us to the end of our show, I guess. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications. Please, we'll have some interesting shows coming up, maybe a couple this next week. So stay tuned for those. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you all again very soon. Ciao.